How's it going, guys? Welcome to Audio Addiction. We have a familiar face if you've been with the channel for a long time, but we have Bad Plans with us. He can say his name and what he does in the band.
Yeah, I am bad plans, really. But my friends call me Jesse, and I do everything really when it comes to the recording process and writing. I've got some awesome people that play live with me, but yeah, I am bad plans, I guess.
There we go. Well, I love to see it. I watched bits and pieces of our old interview that we did roughly around 3 years ago, and I think Jesse made a pretty close joke to what he said at the beginning of the interview. He said he was CEO of Bad Plans, so I still feel like that's the same thing. So keeping it
That's
correct,
accurate.
keeping it
Yeah, that's
correct.
accurate.
But
At least I'm consistent.
you are consistent. So, and I appreciate you for coming back on. I know I did mention that before we started the interview, but it's always cool to uh, see how bands are doing after you've interviewed them. Because for me, I feel like a parent in some way where I'm like, all of my kids are doing great, and I love that. So I feel like I had a lot of catching up to do, not only with you, which we'll get into certainly, but as well as that musically, I feel like there's been a couple songs that have come out and I had the opportunity to listen to them before we hopped on. So, I'm going to give my thoughts on them a little bit as well. But I went back and listened to Home and I was like, oh, that's where it started it all for me. And I was like, this is still great. It still hits, still a great song. And then I went into Bring Out Your Dead, which was the next song that was recommended to me, and that's like a newer-ish song. I would say it came out within the past like 6 to 8 months, roughly.
Mhm.
And I really enjoyed that. I feel like you kind of had a musical shift, and I was like, is this just a one-off? Is he kind of going in this like? I felt like with Home, you're in that like hard rock kind of category, and Bring Out Your Dead feels a little bit more closer to like metalcore stuff. And then I listened to Into the Unquiet, which was the last one I listened to. And that one I'd arguably say you went even heavier. So I feel like there
Definitely.
might be a trend. And I guess, Jesse, for your musical journey, like, when did you kind of realize that you wanted to make a little bit more on the heavier side of music? Because I do feel like, as I mentioned before, you were more in that sort of hard rock category. So what was that kind of switch in your head? You were like, man, I'd like to go a little bit heavier. I think we can, evolve and do different things. But I gotta say, both of the new songs that I listened to, they're both great. So, but they are a lot heavier. So I feel like people who have followed you since the first interview might be a little bit surprised to know that you went heavier.
Totally, totally. I mean, I think with this specific round of songs that you brought up, I'm just a lot more like pissed off. So I made music that fit it. Like, to be frank, before Bad Plans, though, I will say I came from a heavier background,
Oh,
and
okay.
so it was not like a new thing for me as much as it was a new thing for Bad Plans. But I do intend on keeping like some of the melodic elements around in the future.
I think you found that niche. I think there was, when I was listening to both songs, I was like, he's kind of hitting that stride where there's a little bit of angst to it, and I always felt with like some of the older material, it's like it's just on the cusp. Like, I think it works well melodically, but I was like, I need a little edge. I'm into the heavier style of music, so for me personally, that's what I like. And I understand that musically everybody kind of comes from different backgrounds, but I like the fact that you're going in that sort of, again, heavier direction, reminding me of bands like Beartooth, like I Prevail, like Bring Me the Horizon. They those were kind of the bands that initially, when I was listening to both Bring Out Your Dead and Into the Unquiet, I was like, okay, he's kind of pulling from that sort of genre pool of music, and it felt natural. Like, it almost felt like there wasn't any sort of I wasn't kind of sitting here questioning it. It just kind of it went right into it, and I was like, this felt like where you wanted to be initially, but kind of took a detour and then wind up getting back onto the like main highway. If I can use a metaphor a little bit, I do feel like that
for sure.
you kind of took a detour in that aspect. Um, and I guess what brought about the sort of more pissed off attitude, because I do feel like there is again that sort of grit and intentionality in your writing now. And I also have to say, like production wise, has gotten so much better too. I think the songs have just a lot more depth to them. They hit a little bit harder. Like I was listening to them on my, nicer headphones certainly, so I think that obviously has a lot to do with it too. But I think musically there's just a lot more punch to it. So since the first time I listened to Home till now, I think there's just a cool growth that you've experienced over that time frame. Um, but yeah, what kind of got you into more of that pissed off mentality, wanting to write a little bit more in that aggressive styling now?
Sure. Well, like I said before, my background has kind of been on the heavier side,
Hmm.
and the music that I was into, like, especially in like middle school and high school, like I was that kid on the bus, like listening to like metalcore and like my iPod Nano, and like I grew up going to like Warp Tour, and I would
Hmm.
listen to artists like Bless the Fall and like of Mice and Men, and like a lot of that like era of metalcore, I
Oh yeah.
guess. So yeah, like you said, it was natural. And then as far as like the pissed off part, I think that just came from being fed up with like a lot of different things coming at a head, kind of definitely during the pandemic. It wasn't a
Hmm.
pandemic EP by any means, but definitely just some things that were like brought to light. So Bring Out Your Dead is really like a fight song. It's like a call to action.
Oh yeah.
The initial concept for that song came from being fed up at like so many creative ideas, whether that be like music or art, just
Hmm.
being shut down at like the idea level because of like social media. So, like, a common thing is somebody will post like a clip on their story of something they're working on, or maybe like make a post. And you know, the way social media is people will rush to the comments, and somebody will make a comment that is maybe not even inherently negative, but it might have a context that shuts down that idea. And so
Sure.
Bring Out Your Dead is a call to action to bring out these ideas that you have despite what like people might think. It's like see out your art, like see out your
Sure.
truth
Yeah.
basically. Um so it's really a call to action, and just being kind of upset at like how many ideas get shut down in the era of social media.
Yeah, I think I can certainly resonate with that. As someone who listens to an incredible amount of music, I think people kind of rush to, like as you said, rush to social media to say like, "Oh, I didn't really like that song. I think this is a bad song. You know, I don't think you should listen to it." And as someone who kind of can see both sides of the coin, being a fan of music, but also like interviewing bands and seeing that side of the art. I think it gives me a lot more of an appreciation for the time it takes to, you know, put money into artwork, put money into doing the producing if you don't do it yourself. How much marketing are we going to put into this? Like, sort of more of the business side of things. And for people to immediately jump to the conclusion, "Nah, I don't like it, and that kind of shuts down that forward progress of the song. Yeah, I think that doesn't do anybody any justice, right? I think it puts a bad image on the artist that is releasing the music in that sort of way. I think you're still gonna have those diehard fans that really love your music. But I do feel like if you're a new fan and you find out about that, like that's a tough sight to see if someone else is like, you know, whatever. And that's kind of to me why I try to, hopefully, if I don't like the song or if it doesn't hit me, I implore people to let me know why they enjoy the song or why they think it's good. Because I don't think you should inherently shut down the negativity, but I also feel like you shouldn't be like signal boosting it and saying this is shit. I don't like this. Like that's not good. I think there's a way for you can to be honest about it, but also not be like, hey, don't listen to the song. I usually just kind of go about the phrase of like, I didn't really feel the song, but maybe you might like it. And I think that that's the best way to kind of put it in a sense where you're not being negative about the song, but you're also not just saying like don't listen to it. It's like come up with your own opinion on the music. Um, Jesse, do you find that that's how those songs have been on your plate and on your end with releasing stuff? Because I would say, as I mentioned before, like kind of having that shift musically, I think can bring about some of those things where people are a little bit more inherently like, I don't know what's going on. Why are you going into that heavier direction?
Totally. I mean, I think we're just in an era of immediate feedback.
Hmm.
Sometimes
I would
that's
agree.
really good, sometimes that's really bad. So, like personally, I love to hear like how people are feeling about the song. I sit and work on things so long that like I've heard a song 1,000 times before it comes
Sure.
out.
Oh, yeah.
And so you lose all objectivity, I guess. So I like the immediate feedback, even if it's bad. Like I like to hear how people are feeling. Like, hey, man, like you totally missed the mark on this song, or like, hey, man, this is really unexpected and awesome, and like keep it up. But with the message of "Bring Out Your Dead," it's definitely just talking about like, hey, this is a caveat of like the world we live in.
Sure.
For
Yeah.
all creators, even besides just me.
Oh, yeah. No, I think I hope it gives people that perspective of like listening to the music and coming up with your own opinion. Don't allow someone like I always say with reaction videos, like I love doing them, but I also feel like I want to make sure that I'm giving my musical take on what's going on, but not just kind of overshadowing what is like released. I want to be able to promote the music and I want people to come up with their collective opinion on what's out, whether it be your band, you know, Nothing Nowhere, other Wage War, like those types of artists that I do feel like have more of a polarizing sort of fan base where they're like, I don't know, this is not what I'm feeling. I hope that people kind of go into it with an open mind. So I hope that you guys check out Bad Plans. I would highly recommend both tracks. If I had to really pick, if you're into the more heavier stuff, I would say Into the Unquiet is the way to go. But Bring Out Your Dead was also very good. I think that one would surprise me. But then listening to Into the Unquiet, I was like, okay, this checks. This makes sense, So I think you got to get that perspective. But they're both very good. But I think my personal recommendation would be Into the Unquiet. But I'll ask the question to you, Jesse, for people who maybe aren't familiar with Bad Plans. Do you have a song that you would recommend to a new listener check out first?
Hmm, that's a tough one. Um, I would say Into the Unquiet, probably,
Ooh, okay.
even without you saying anything just now. I feel like that one showcases like the most um like elements of like what I'm about and what I plan to be about probably for a while. So
I
definitely Into the Unquiet.
I feel like that's a good one. Like there's a little bit of screaming, there's a little bit, there's a lot more singing obviously. And I think you find that nice niche of having those moments. I think my only critique that I had about Into the Unquiet, I was kind of actually hoping for a little bit more screaming if I'm going to be honest. But again, that's a biased take for me because I am more into the heavier music, but I would say I think you could push on the gas a little bit more. You could give me a little bit extra. So that would be my only thing that I would recommend. But I like the more aggressive stance. Like I said, I Prevail, Beartooth. I would say Bring Me the Horizon were those types of bands that I immediately kind of jumped to and was like, okay, he's kind of pulling from that styling of music. So definitely really sick. But I'll ask you, Jesse, what were some of the heavier bands that you got into that ultimately, got you more into that sort of heavier mindset and writing, heavier tracks?
For sure. Yeah, definitely all those bands you listed, I think rule. Definitely some of those like older, I say older, but like earlier 2000s metalcore
Oh yeah.
influences. Real metalcore fans are gonna rip me apart for that. That's not older metalcore
I
really,
don't think so.
but they're getting older, which is
Getting older.
sad to me.
Yeah.
I listened to a lot of new metal before this EP.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I listened to a lot of like earlier Corn influence Into the Unquiet specifically. I listen to a lot of like darker like alternative stuff. I listen to a lot of Poppy and Grimes for this
Oh,
EP.
okay.
I think they rule. Yeah, Kid Brunswick. Um, yeah, a lot of that like darker melodic type stuff influenced this EP.
Nice. That's very sick. I will recommend a band to you. You should check out if you haven't already. Check out Mood Ring. They're like
Oh yeah.
fantastic. You know, they got that new metal vibe, but they've got some really cool like industrial aspects to their music. That was like a band that I feel like musically, if you went like a little bit heavier, a little bit more industrial, I feel like that could you could hit that vibe certainly, or find that like middle ground between the bands that I listed and Mood Ring. But yeah, I could definitely hear a little new metal influence, and I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if he mentioned it, but if he did not mention it, I think that would surprise me more. So I'm glad I was in the right headspace
Oh,
for that.
spot on as always, man.
Thank you, thank you. Too kind. But Jesse, obviously you mentioned it. Cat's out of the bag a little bit. You do have an EP coming out. How was the writing process for that? Was that during the pandemic? Like, what was kind of your thought process going into releasing an EP? Because I think up till now you've only been releasing a lot of singles, if my memory serves me correct.
Yes, it was all singles. With Home and Troubled Young Soul, I was definitely like kind of testing the waters still.
Hmm.
I still feel like I always am, but especially with those songs, I was just figuring out how to release music on my own.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, Three of the songs on the EP were written pre-pandemic,
Oh
and then
wow.
two
Okay.
were kind of like during, kind of sort of like the creation of the EP, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
Bring Out Your Dead and Into the Unquiet were the two that kind of like formed the sound though. I wrote those first. I wrote those the original ideas for those came like quite a bit before the like pandemic, and I just held on to them for a while.
Nice. Okay.
I didn't even really put together that those ideas were going to be like
Like
on the
fleshed out.
same EP. Yeah. I just kind of like I wrote them and they sat on my hard drive for a long time. And then one day I listened to them back to back and I was like, "Oh wait, like I think this might be like a collection of songs like an EP."
Oh, nice. Okay.
So yeah, those definitely formed the sound for me.
That's awesome. And then in regards to the kind of the newer songs, I guess newer quote unquote, when was that? When were you like, okay, you were having those ideas, you're trying to pull from like older material that you had, sitting on the hard drive. When was that kind of thought process where you were like, okay, we have these three songs that are a little bit more in the older like headspace. What are some of the songs that I can maybe rope in that I've made more currently to, I guess, give more thought process behind the EP and going through that process? Did you kind of initially start out and just say, okay, we have these older songs. I'm gonna work on these. Maybe they're just these three songs are gonna be released, and then the other two might come out at a later time. When was kind of that shift in thought process where you're like, no, I feel like these two songs that are a little bit more, you know, post pandemic kind of, we need to put these on with the other three that I'm going to be releasing.
Sure. I'm Scared was one of those songs that I
Okay.
wrote. Um, it kind of wrote itself, where it happened really quick. Like I had the concept before I even like played the chords or
Oh,
anything.
nice. Okay.
And I sat down and I demoed it out, and like structurally and like lyrically, that is like what you hear. Um, and then I took it to producer Matt Arcaney, and we finished it out together. Um, but yeah, that song was one of those ones that like the lyrics and the content were kind of inspired by Bring Out Your Dead and Into the
Nice.
Unquiet.
Okay.
Like inherently, like it was like songs influencing other songs on the EP. And then Ground was like the last one that I wrote for the EP.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that one was like my goal with that song were like, here are the rules that I set out for the EP, and I want to break all of them with one song. Like
That's sick.
I
Oh,
I just want to take everything that like I thought was going to make this EP what it was, everything that ties it together, and I'm just going to break it with like one song. That was my only goal with that. Um, and it came out really crazy because of it, I think.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I'm excited to, break down all the songs. I will wind up doing some sort of review. I've been doing a lot of live reaction reviews, so I will definitely be adding Bad Plans new EP onto the list of things that I need to check out. Obviously, when it releases, I'm not gonna spoil the art for Jesse here. Can't do that. But I think I like your thought process behind writing it. I think I got more of a frame of reference for having listened to the new songs because I do feel like with artists that I have on, I do try to do my best to keep up and see what's happening and stuff. But it was very nice to delve into some of the older stuff that I'm familiar with, but also kind of getting refamiliarized and hearing, the progress that you've made. So I'm excited to hear the songs that you've revamped from like the older times and then some of the obviously the newer ones and being able to kind of discern what was old, what was new, and kind of, finding that gray area in between as well. Do you have a song that you're most excited for people to listen to off the new EP?
I would say Ground, yeah. It's the most surprising,
Okay,
um, especially given the songs that are already out. So I'm always really excited for the reactions to that song.
there we go. Well, I'll be on that list certainly of checking that one out. And then like lyrically and kind of like musical kind of thought process, what are some of the topics you delve into in regards to the EP and like I know some of the songs as you mentioned earlier, you kind of went over that thought process, but is there like a main theme that kind of ties all these songs together or, what was your thought process with that, Jesse?
Sure. The overarching theme for the whole EP and the reason it's called Into the Unquiet is kind of the idea of that song, which is like we need to like slow down and find some quiet,
Yeah.
ironically to the title, in this like over glorified, like fast, kind of almost urban lifestyle that we've created in like a post pandemic world. So, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like a weird anti establishment take
Okay.
on like this life that we've created. Um, and it's not to say that like some of these things we've glorified are all bad. I think that's the big takeaway from the message is like, yeah, a lot of this EP speaks out against like social media and some of these other things we've glorified, being a workaholic. Lots of people work multiple jobs and multiple side gigs on top of
Yep.
those jobs right now just to make ends meet. Um, and that's not to say that's 10% bad. I think um, that is the main focus of the EP, though, is just like to revisit like this life that we've created.
No, and I like that. As someone who I feel like, I can speak very candidly about this. I feel like I am a little bit of a workaholic, anybody can tell you. I ask all of my friends, they're like, man, I don't know how you punch out so much shit in like a week. And it's lack of sleep, guys. That's what it is. I don't get any sleep. And I can clearly admit that and, be candid about it. But I do feel like is like you kind of reflect on those things. And I think, the blessing and curse of the pandemic allowed you to kind of think about your life in that way of like are you overworking yourself and you know that you are and you're going to continue to do that. Is there a way that you can kind of train your head to not overwork or to give yourself time to enjoy the things in life? Because I think you allow those moments to pass you by so quickly and you're not able to really enjoy things. Like I'm an uncle, I became an uncle like in December of last or January of last year. And I just feel like now, since being an uncle, it makes me like look at my niece and be like, holy shit, like she's grown up so fast. And I feel like I am consequently getting older. And I think it kind of put me into perspective of like enjoying some of those things of life that you pass by because you're just like, oh, I gotta release this song, or I have to post this reaction video, or I have to do this interview. And that's not to take away. I like spending time with Jesse. I want to make full disclosure. I'm not enjoying this time. I just feel like it was played up for the obviously the comments here, um but yeah, I do feel like we do overwork ourselves in that way, and I hope that people give themselves time to enjoy things that isn't work, or just do something fun, come up with a cool hobby, do something that you really enjoy, because you know life goes by like this, and it's important to have those moments where you can just enjoy yourself. I think I've learned that doing YouTube for over 7 years, and it took me long enough to realize it, but I think I have a nice schedule of things that I get to spend time doing, the things that I like to do outside of interviewing, but then I get to enjoy lovely people like Jesse, so it's great. So I find that nice happy balance, so I hope you find your balance. But that was my TED talk here, so I didn't I didn't mean to go on a whole rant, but
No, I
I'm
love it, man.
and I'm sure you feel that way as being, a dad now. I know I gave you a congrats, but I feel like I have to cement it in a video here. But I feel like, did that becoming like a parent and becoming a dad, did that kind of trigger those sorts of thoughts of like, I need to slow down, I need to enjoy my time as being a father, and like kind of refocusing your life in a way. Not that it was off track by any means, but does that put it in perspective a little bit more?
No, it's totally on track. I made this EP. It was done before
Oh,
uh,
wow. Okay.
I knew I was having a baby or anything. Um, but being a dad after the fact has kind of given a lot more context to it.
Sure.
So it's
Yeah.
been kind of funny in that way. So much so that I've been reading like time management books because I'm like,
Wow.
how am I going to figure out how to do it all and still spend time with this, amazing child that I have now and my wife. So yeah, in a lot of ways, the EP was like um, foreshadowing for what was to come for me. Um,
Unironically, yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. Um, so yes, to answer your question.
I feel that, as someone who has a calendar app on their phone to like manage everything that I do now, I feel like Doctor Strange, I have the ability of time now. So I don't ever feel like, I mean, I still feel stressed out. I won't be, candid, I won't beat around the bush on that. I feel like there's some moments where I'm like, yeah, this is tough, but I push through it. But I also know, like, give myself a little extra time, on another day that I'm not doing interviews, just like chill out, hit the gym, whatever. So it's
Yeah, there you
it's
go.
it's a good vibe. But the next question I have for you, Jesse, is, who are you currently listening to now? I always love asking this question. It's a question I'll probably continue to ask, but who you been jamming recently?
Man, it's kind of a mix. I've been listening to a good amount of like industrial,
Oh,
um, like older industrial. Um, I've been listening to some like throwback EDM stuff, like a lot of Dead Mouse, and like
oh,
Cascade.
yeah.
Um, I think their stuff sounds fantastic. It's just so like pleasing to listen to. Um, and the way that they pick sounds are really interesting to me right now. And I've been listening completely like opposite to that, um, to like trap metal,
Oh, wow. Okay.
mainly at the gym with the trap metal.
Nice. Any
Gotta hit those
specific
PRs.
artists?
Um, his last album's kind of all over the place, but I like Josiah a lot. His recent album's
Oh,
really
okay.
cool. Um, there's way more that I cannot think of right now, but that's the most recent album that I listened to that had me hitting new PRs in the gym. It's just so the stuff just slams, man. It's awesome.
Love to see it. I feel like, if I can add someone else to your repertoire, I don't know if you've heard of Dropout Kings, but they kind of have like that rap core kind of feel, and they crush. So big
Yeah,
salutes to
that stuff
Dropout King.
ripped. Dream
They're
Tour.
awesome. Yes, if you did a collab with them, I think that would rock. So
Oh, it'd be so sick.
Dropout Kings, come on, where we at? We gotta do this. We make this happen. That'd be really sick. Um, But the next question I have for you, Jesse, is been asking this question more recently. Who's on your Mount Rushmore bands? Like, if you could come up with a list of artists that are on your Mount Rushmore, who would you put on there?
Oh man, how many? There's four heads on Mount
There's
Rushmore.
four heads on Mount
Okay,
Rushmore. Yeah,
wow.
I wish there was more.
Shout out to my high school. I should know the answer to that. Um, man, I gotta go. Chevelle's number one.
Oh
Chevelle is like
yeah.
my
Oh,
consistently my
underrated.
top band of all time. Like they're just so consistent in the albums they make and still like, you know, push themselves every record. Chevelle rips. Oh man, the other three I'm on the spot, so I'm gonna say stuff that I do not mean at all. I'm gonna say Metallica for sure.
Oh,
That
all
was
right,
like
all
my
right.
gateway into any
Okay.
kind of like heavy music of any kind was Metallica. Um I gotta say The Weeknd. Like that's the
Oh,
top artist for
nice. All
me.
right, yeah.
Just consistently love The Weeknd. And probably Bring Me the Horizon, man. Like they're
Ooh.
just they continue to like push the envelope with what they do. And their production value is just so like massive and
Oh yeah.
inspiring to me. So I gotta say, Bring Me the Horizon, even though it's like kind of a basic take now, they're
I wouldn't say
just
so.
they're that band, you know?
I feel like, and I'll people can quote me out the wazoo on this, but I do feel like they're the band that transitioned so perfectly. They were the band that you wouldn't think transitioned so well, but you think about like Count Your Blessings, and I'm just like, holy shit, that is a monstrous record. Obviously, listening to it now, production value has completely changed since that point and
Yeah,
now. But then you go and listen to some of the newer stuff that they've released, like maybe off of Amo or the EP that I can't remember because it's just got a, I think it's got a super super long name. Um, but I feel like they have kind of just done the full gambit of different genres, but have just tweaked it slightly to where now they're just such a huge like rock and like metal icon band that it's hard to deny them. I know people are like OG stands for like Suicide Season, like even maybe up to like Sepultura, and that's where everybody kind of the divide, great divide begins. But
sure, yeah,
I do feel like they're that band that just it doesn't matter to me. I feel like I give a listen to every single thing that they've released, and I've kind of come away with just more of an appreciation for them. I would say post like That's the Spirit. I'd say anything after that, I've gotten like more of an appreciation for their just like minute changes in their musical styling all the way up to the most current stuff. And they have a new song coming out like I think it's May 4th or May 5th. So I'm just excited. I think they personally can do no wrong, but I might also be on the not winning side here. So I am
sure.
fully aware to admit that. But
Oh,
great.
I'm prepared to go down with you on that, man.
Great choices though. If Jesse does have a change of heart, I will then put the photo of Mount Rushmore and I'll put his other ones that he has his sleep on it and thinks about it a little bit more. If not, if he doesn't reach out to me, that's his picks. So
You know what? I stand by them.
okay, okay.
I'll
I
probably
Hey,
wake
listen,
up
I'll
at
give you the
like
out.
3 a.m. and change my mind, but right now I stand by them.
I'm gonna get a frantic like DM. These are my picks. I
Yeah,
swear.
man. Yeah,
But that's awesome. I love that. I always feel like to me it's a hard choice because you get put on the spot. I just want to preface everyone: no one knows these questions unless you watch the interview. So Jesse is putting it on the spot. So I gotta give him kudos. Those are some fantastic picks. Um, the next question I have for you, Jesse, you did mention you've been listening to like a lot of EDM, old school, like music, and I know that a lot of bands right now have been kind of seeing like that EDM, like remixing. Like Spearbox is one that I can think of. I know Unified does like a ton of their artists. They have like, I think his name's Phase One, do a lot of like collaboration remix tracks. Is there anyone in particular that you would love to just hear someone do a remix of a Bad Plans track?
um, yeah. You already mentioned the Spearbox collab with Ilenium. I think something like that would be sick. I really like Cascade.
Oh,
Um, his stuff is really cool. This isn't a specific artist, but I think it would be cool to do like a 90s like rave, like the old school techno stuff. I think
ooh.
it'd be cool to have somebody do one of the songs off the EP in like that style. Like I always think it'd be like that style is so manic and crazy, and there's a lot of like elements already in the EP that support it. So yeah, that'd be sick. I don't know a specific artist though.
I feel that. That would be cool. You know, I will say that's kind of like an unkept secret for me. I didn't really listen to like a lot of EDM. The only thing I really got into like when I was much younger was like Skrillex. That was like I still think that some of his earliest work was just so tight. Like I can say that as someone who doesn't has not listened to the newest Skrillex stuff, but um I'm more of a obviously from first to last fan, but I feel like he did something unique and different at the time, and I just I think being a metalcore kid and seeing that, and then seeing him kind of transition more into electronic music, this was a character arc I was not expecting. So I like that. So I got to give him a lot of kudos. If I had to kind of pick, oh man, I don't know. Who would I kind of rock with? I feel like Odessa would be kind of interesting.
Okay.
I feel like that would be. I feel like you could put something on where it would just work. You know, maybe like I feel like he could really do something interesting with Into the Unquiet. I feel like that would be one that, if
I could definitely see
I
that.
don't have any pull with Odessa, but we'll make sure to tag them. In this video. So Odessa, thanks for watching first and foremost. But you
Yeah.
and Jesse should do something. I'm just saying. I feel like I have a little pull, just a little. Um, but the next question I have for you, Jesse, if you were to compile a musical supergroup, who would be in the band?
Ooh, do I have to be in the band? Because I would not put me.
You
I would
can
not put
if
me in
you
the band.
would you that is up to your discretion. If you'd like to be in the band, two thumbs up. If you wouldn't like to be in it, also two thumbs up.
Man. Yeah, I'd love to put me in the band, but I'd just be lying. Like,
At least you're
um,
honest about it.
that's crazy. Guitar, John Five.
Ooh,
We'll fill guitar first. I
okay,
think he's crazy. Even like prior to the whole Motley Crue thing. Like, I always thought he was an insane guitar player.
agreed.
Um, that's a tough one. What kind of band are we talking to? That's the
You
other thing.
that's up to your discretion as well. This is my hands are off the steering wheel. This is you're driving now.
Yeah, I guess we're locked into rock because I just started running with it.
You could do whatever you want. There's avenues to switch it up. I feel.
Man. So if we could do something with like um John Five, but with like Mike from Linkin Park's rapping
Oh,
somehow,
okay,
I just feel
okay,
like that would be nuts.
all right, all right. John
Um,
5, Mike Shinoda.
I feel like we gotta have another guitar player, probably Wes Borland
Oh, okay,
if we're doing the rap rock thing.
yeah, Limp.
Um, man, who's behind the kit though? That's crazy. I would normally say no.
I appreciate your attention to really thinking about it though.
I'm gonna go ahead and say my drummer Kyle
Oh,
on the kit.
salutes
He's a freak. Um, he'd fit right
in a good way.
in the best way. Um, and that's it.
Oh, all
Just
right.
rap, no clean, no
Interesting.
clean
I
vocals.
think Mike can do some cleans though, but you just say strictly rap.
I'm saying strictly rap. Yeah,
Wow. All
that's my
right.
super group.
That is interesting. I think that might go down as one of the more interesting answers I've gotten. So I like that. Wow, what a lineup. John
And it,
5. Go
and
ahead, Jesse.
Kyle, if you see this, you're not just in the band because I couldn't think of anybody else. I swear.
That I'm glad you rectified that. That could have been a very controversial, pick, but I'm glad you specified that just, Kyle is a maniac on the drums. So I think I think that's kudos. I'll give you kudos. That was a good one. That's a tough question, I feel like, because it's like very loaded. You got to know like who you're rocking with, you and like genre wise, you locked and loaded it. So I think that's a good choice. I like that. Um, but the last question I have for you, Jesse, is my personal favorite from more currently. I started asking this after the pandemic kind of, subsided. Obviously, there's still stuff around, but not as much. Um, but I always find love in doing these interviews, and I hope that they come across in the things that I do. Certainly, um, but I wanted to know why music is so important to you. Why do you continue to create it? Why is it a necessity in your life? You have a lot going on. Why do you dedicate that time to working on stuff with bad plans? Because I mean, realistically, anybody could be doing anything that isn't so much investment. I'm sure you get that question all the time. Why do you make music if you don't make money doing it, or you don't do this or you don't do that? I'm sure you get a ton of those sorts of questions. I know I do. So gotta ask, Jess, what's the reason for making music for you?
Totally, man. Man, I love this question
Oh,
because
thank you.
really this like speaks so much into like just my mantra as bad plans. Like the name comes from the idea that doing music is kind of stupid, like financially, right? And
Yeah,
just like it's a lot of time and it's a lot of, you know, work for maybe no like tangible outcome. So the whole idea of bad plans from the jump was that this is stupid, but we do it anyway. Like the reason is because I love it. Like
sure.
the
Yeah,
like the short and like most honest answer I can give you honestly is just like I love it. I started playing music super young. I come from like a somewhat musical family, so I grew up, just around it and like diving into records and getting put onto albums just like by my dad who's a drummer. So yeah, the long story made long is just I love it so much, man. Like it's what I know and I'm gonna keep doing it.
yeah. I appreciate that because I feel like a lot of artists can get a little bit more candid with this because it's a tough thing. I love doing this, and people ask me all the time, "You must make like a lot of money doing YouTube," and I was like, I don't do it. And realistically, I didn't start doing this because I wanted to make money doing it. Is it a nice bonus? Sure. I'll take that. I'll be 100% with that. But I don't make enough money to like quit my day job, and not do this full time. Like, no way. Um, but I do feel like it fuels my passion for wanting to have artists on that I know really care about their music. And I'm not saying that most artists in the scene don't, because I think a large majority of them do. But it is a tough thing, and I always find that musicians are like the most hardiest of people, like they just want to just grind it out, and just like if it's something they're passionate about, they put all those eggs in one basket and they just send it. And so I feel like for me as an interviewer, I want to have that same energy. I want to be able to take their egg basket and put like rocket launchers on it. I want to send that shit to the moon. So for me, I think that that's kind of like my cause to want to do this, because I think there's so many dedicated musicians out there that love doing it. And, I just want to be able to share that experience with other people. And I hope that, you know, people walk away from this and are like, I really like Jesse. He seems really cool. The music he writes, also very sick. I'm going to make sure to go follow him on social medias so I can find out what's going to be coming up next. That to me is a win, because I know that I'm giving my love and admiration for all the musicians that I have on, and I hope to just like, spirit bomb that shit to the next person. So that's my goal. So Jesse, I hope that people go check out Bad Plans, and I feel like that is the perfect segue to let the people know where they can find you at. when you are releasing this EP, because we didn't talk about that. So I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to let them know when it's coming out, and anything else you would like to share about your band.
Absolutely. So this is being recorded on Wednesday.
Yeah,
This
yes.
Friday, April 23rd, Ground is coming out. By the time you're watching this, there will be a video out with it. You're going to hear it for yourself.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
going to be
Okay.
on YouTube. The song and everything else is on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all the digital stuff's YouTube Music. You can find me at Bad Plans Music everywhere, anywhere that is a thing that has an at. That's Bad Plans Music. Badplansmusic.com. I'm also playing in Nashville with 0936
Oh, nice.
on
Kudos.
May 15th. Come out. It's going to be at the end. So, yeah, come mosh, throw hands, and it's going to be awesome.
There we go. Well, very excited for the EP. Is to be determined. You know, we're getting ground, so I'll leave a link. I'll also probably be doing a reaction video, so that'll also be linked. You know, check the song out first, and then check my reaction out. You know, or vice versa, whatever you're feeling. Or you can just come watch it with me. That'd be sick. But very excited for what Jesse's doing. It's always a pleasure to catch up with bands. I feel like for me, I always love having him on for the second time because I feel like all the nerves kind of went out the building for the first interview, and the second interview we go a little deeper. We dive a little deeper. So I hope that get a lot out of it, and you should go check out Bad Plans. All of the links are in the description. Really, really good stuff. I think that I'm so excited for Grounded and having that just like pure shock on what's going to be happening next. But please go check out Jesse's project. If you do live in Nashville, go see him live. I'm sure they'll have plenty more shows beyond the one that they're going to be playing in May. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled, and the best way to do that is checking those social media. So I know we were shit talking about it earlier, but you know, realistically, you need to go
Still
check it
got to
out.
have it.
Still gotta have it,
Still got to have it. Fastest. It's the
unfortunately,
fastest way to find me.
but
Delete all of it, but also, just in case you don't, come find me on social media.
well,
But
go check
delete
them
all of
out.
it.
If you enjoyed this interview, share, like, and subscribe. It does go a long way. And again, huge thanks to Jesse for coming back on.
Dude, thank you so much.
All